Welcome, everyone, to the Week 3 series of Just Saying Football with Jack and Sean. I'm your host, Sean Gannon, alongside my partner, Jack McNicholas. We're here to give you news, notes, and weekly updates on game analysis of your favorite teams each week. If you had not had the chance, go check out our website at justsayingfootball.com and follow us on Instagram at justsayingNoGWJS. This NFL Sunday kicks off with 8 games at 1 p.m. Let's take our way up into Soldier Field, where we're going to see the Falcons taking on the Bears. Jack, what you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta has allowed 886 total yards in these first two games. They had a huge loss to the Cowboys last week. The Cowboys
Big
came
loss.
back, and, this defense is looking like nobody's out there. The problem is the offense right now is ranked fourth in the league. They are evening out how bad this defense is with great offense, and that is not going to win games in the NFL. We know that defense brings teams deep into the playoffs, and, you know, Atlanta, after going 0-2, they're really looking for a win in this one. And the Bears defense has been playing to their standard, to a good standard, and they're running the ball well. It's going to be a very interesting game offensively. These teams have two totally different identities.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there. Atlanta seems to be struggling. Their offense looks great, like you've said. Calvin Ridley is receiving the ball really well. We haven't seen a lot of Todd Gurley, which I'm hoping picks up as the season goes on. But I think that the Bears have what it takes to really get this game going and take a win here. I am going to go with the Bears. Mitchell Trubisky looks really good in the first 2 weeks of the season. I think signing Foles has done them a really, really good job of adding some pressure to him and making sure that he needs to now understand that you have to be passing the ball. You have to get these passes that you weren't making, and he's been getting the job done. And that defense has been playing great. I do think that the Falcons can score on them, especially if Julio is able to play. I know he's listed as questionable right now, but if he's in there, you're going to have to put full on him. That's going to allow Hurst and Ridley to kind of get open and find little holes in the defense and hopefully exploit them. So I'm going to go with the Bears here. Who do you got?
Yeah, I actually think that the Falcons pull this one out. I think that the way that they've been high scoring, even though the Bears do have a comeback victory already so far this year, I'm going to go with the Falcons on this one. I trust Matt Ryan to get it done, even with Julio being questionable and expected to play. The way Calvin Ridley's playing, I got to go with the Falcons.
All right, I like what you're thinking there.
Yeah, and we have the LA Rams playing up in the Buffalo, against the Bills, and these two teams are looking solid. First 2 weeks, they have both had a lot of different matchups. A lot of people are saying the Rams really need to prove themselves. They're playing great. People thought with the loss of Todd Gurley, the run game wouldn't be going, but Malcolm Brown and Darnell Henderson are really picking it up right now. Aaron Donald is playing, the way that he always has. He is, as we have said in the past, one of the best defensive players. And I think it's going to be there's a lot of very interesting matchups in this one. I think that the Bills have a good offensive line. And, I think that with Zach Moss out, it's going to be Devin Singletary's day to really run the ball, get involved, have another, allow him to be the premier back for the week and help Josh Allen out.
Yeah, the Rams offense looks really good. Goff looks comfortable in the pocket. We didn't see that a lot in 2019. He looked a little bit out of sorts at times, but this year he looks very, very comfortable sitting back there. Aaron Donald is already in mid-season shape. He is throwing around anyone in front of him. Again, if you just go take a look at the Dallas Cowboys game where he tossed a lineman into another lineman and then Zeke all in one play. But I think the biggest spot here is really going to be the Diggs-Allen matchup against the Donald-Ramsey matchup. Allen looks really, really great this year. He's already thrown for over 350 yards in both of his opening games. Him and Diggs have a really, really great connection going on. But they're going up against one of the top ranked cornerbacks in the league, one of the best man coverage cornerbacks in the league. And it's going to be a huge test for them. We got to go up against the Dolphins and the Jets, which have a weaker secondary, but Ramsey's not going to let those catches just drop by. The one where Diggs caught in between 3 guys, he's not going to let that happen. And Donald's going to be looking to get after Allen to make him get out of the pocket and try to run the ball instead of passing the ball as well as he has been. I'm going to go with the Bills, though. I like what Diggs has been doing with Allen. I'm going to trust what they have done so far this year. I think they're going to surprise people and get a win over a really good Rams defense.
Yeah, I mean, I really like how the Rams offense is playing, as you said right now. I think that Goff looks very, very comfortable. The thing for me is if Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano are hurt, They're both questionable with injuries for the weekend, and that's their linebacking core right there. As I mentioned, the new running backs are coming in and starting to produce. I think that Goff gets it done this week. I see a big week for Cooper Kupp after Tyler Higbee was the premier target last week, and there are. They're great teams, but there are other teams, that we can, there are these two big teams going at it, but we have two teams on our next game that have a lot of questions surrounding both teams, the Browns and the Washington football team. We have this defensive line that has been great this entire first 2 weeks. We saw them have 8 sacks in the first week. These guys, there's 5 first rounders on that defensive line, and they're going to give Baker all they can. And I feel like it's going to push them to a fact where they're going to have to get the ball out. They're going to have to use Kareem Hunt in the passing game as they used him last week. Odell Beckham Jr. Is going to have to do what he did last week and get open on deep balls. They're going to have to get Jarvis Landry involved. They need to get Austin Hooper involved. He's going to have to get the ball out quick, especially with all this pressure coming. And I'm sure that how do you feel about Baker going up against this defensive line?
I'm going to agree with you there. I think it's going to be coming down to Baker getting the ball out more than anything. Stefanski's done a really good job week 2, putting up a good game plan that involved the running game between both Kareem and Nick Chubb, and they did a great job. They had 4 total touchdowns, both in the air and on the ground. But this is a really good defensive line. It's filled with 4 first-round picks. They're big guys. They're athletic guys. Chase Young already looks like a great edge rusher. It looks like he's going to be great for years to come. It's going to be hard for them to just be able to run easily against them. I think it's going to come down to, can Baker Mayfield get the ball quickly to OBJ? Can OBJ get away from the cornerbacks? Got to utilize Jarvis a little bit more. I think that he's being underutilized, as well as Cooper. Begin to use these playmakers that you have outside of your running backs. I think that this line is not going to let them run the ball the way that they did. They're not going to fall for the play action. They're going to try to get after Baker, and that means he's going to need to get the ball out here. I think Washington's going to surprise and actually get the win. I think it's going to be because of that defensive line more than anything.
Yeah, and I think one really cool matchup we're going to have to watch this weekend is Terry McLaurin versus Denzel Ward, both former Buckeyes. Terry has really come into his own in this season. Last year we got a good glimpse of things to come. I would love to, I'm excited to see that matchup between the two of them. And, it's going to be a really, really exciting matchup. But I am going to go with the Browns in this one. I think that if they can get the run game going, like you said, if they can get that Stefanski play action, get the ball out from Baker, I think they can pull out the win at home this week. What about you, Sean?
The Washington football team is my surprise team of the week. I think it's just going to be the defensive line is going to be getting after Baker Mayfield and making him as uncomfortable as possible. And when he gets uncomfortable, he has been prone to make mistakes, which is going to allow that defense. And Landon Collins, who's a great safety that people kind of have forgotten about since he's joined, to get an interception. So I'm going to go with Washington here.
Yeah, great pick. I mean, and I know that this next game you're really excited about, but after last week, there is a lot of, speculation to how excited you really are. And we got the Titans coming over to Minnesota to play the Vikings. And what do you think about this game? I know you've been excited for this one.
Vikings are losing. I will not. I'd be super surprised if we got a win. Dalvin Cook only has 26 carries through the first 2 weeks. Last year in 2019, he had 41. So we're already seeing this massive change in offense. Kubiak has come out and has said it's his fault for the play calling, but you have to give the ball to Dalvin Cook. When we did give the ball to him last week, it seemed like we were running the ball pretty well. The offense got going. We have 2 huge injuries on the secondary with Cam Dantzler and Mike Hughes, which means that Ryan Tannehill, who's coming off of a 4-touchdown game against Jacksonville, will have another opportunity to torch up a secondary. And if that doesn't work, the Vikings gave up 100 yards on the ground to rookie and Jonathan Taylor, and now they go up against Derrick Henry. So really anything that the Titans want to do this game, I think it's going to be their way, especially if the Vikings offense continues to have no identity whatsoever and forces the defense to be out there consistently throughout the game. You can lock in Titans as your win. It's going to be a lot. It's not going to be a fun game for me to watch.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people compare Jonathan Taylor, who's a rookie this year, to Derrick Henry, just the way he runs with power. But, this week you get the upgrade. Last week you got the rookie, and I think that they're just going to feed Derrick Henry. They let Tannehill do his thing last week with the play action and create, plays. Even with A.J. Brown out, Johnny Smith looked great. The Vikings, they don't have Anthony Barr. He's hurt for the season. He's out for the whole season now, which is very unfortunate. But he's the cover guy for those tight ends, those big tight ends.
Yeah.
He's fast, and, that's going to be a lot, because Kendricks covers the middle of the field for the Vikings defense. But I think it's going to rely on if Kirk Cousins and this offense, if Kubiak actually went into practice and made these changes. Because last week, what we saw out of Kirk Cousins was not the accurate quarterback that we've seen, the 68, plus percent completion percentage on an average basis. So they need to give him the plays that he's the most comfortable with. We saw plays last week where he was missing Thielen on plays, and that doesn't happen. They have a great rapport. So I believe the Titans are going to win, but it's going to be on Minnesota's offense to take this one. They're going to have to help their defense out.
Yeah, if they don't step up this week, it's panic mode for sure on the offensive side easily.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's head into Vegas going up against the New England Patriots in New England. What are your thoughts going into this game?
I mean, a Gruden-Belichick game is always exciting. Ever since, the Tucker Rule game, way back, in their first big Super Bowl run, this is, these guys know each other very well. They're both very interesting coaches. And what we saw last week out of this Raiders offense has to get you excited. When Josh Jacobs doesn't have the best game, but they can still beat a team like New Orleans, Michael Thomas wasn't there, I get that, but they played great, and New Orleans has a stellar defense. These guys showed up, and, we saw what they did in week 1. They could not do it in week 2 when they went to Vegas. Derek Carr actually looked great last week. He was able to just do whatever he wanted on certain plays. He had time, even with Trent Brown out. And now, they're going to have to try to do different things this week against the Patriots. They lost Tyrell Williams for the season. They don't have Henry Ruggs this week. They still don't have Trent Brown for protection. Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs listed as questionable. This Patriots team is going to take advantage of these holes in the Raiders offense. And, I think New England can actually win this game the way that Cam has been playing. And, with all the things that we said about New England, all the opt-outs, they still look great. And how are you feeling about this Belichick-Gruden showdown?
I think it's going to be a great game, honestly. Like you were just saying, Carr was excellent last week against the Saints. He had 3 different receivers for touchdowns. His fullback, Nick Ingold, his tight end, Darren Waller, and his wide receiver, Zay Jones. That's what you want to see from Carr. The thing that I really was looking forward to seeing this week was the Ruggs deep ball. They tried to run it once against the Saints. They got the PI call against Jenkins, but he's out this week, so I'm a little bit sad about that. And I think that's going to be a little bit easier for the Patriots defense to really begin to expose them. And on the flip, Cam Newton had a great week against the Seahawks. They didn't end up getting the win. I will say I didn't love the last play call. I would have gone a pass. I would have allowed him a few more options and still allowed him to run it. But that's neither here nor there. We're on to the next week, as the Patriot mantra kind of is. But he went 30 for 44, 397 yards, had a TD, had an interception. And then with 11 rush attempts, 47 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Cam Newton looks like the MVP that we saw in 2015. He looks comfortable. He looks good in this system. He has a great deep ball to Julian Edelman. He is looking really, really comfortable with these receivers. He looks great in the system. The defense looks good. I expect Stephon Gilmore to bounce back after a kind of a shaky game against DK Metcalf where he gave up the bomb touchdown. And I think the Patriots are going to get this one done. I think that they are going to get the win at home. And I think that as the Raiders, if you're looking at it from a defense perspective, you don't know which Patriots offense you're going to get. Are you going to get this 397 passing yards one, or are you going to get this over 100 yards on the ground game one from Cam Newton? And that's what's really making this Patriots offense, sadly, is the weapons and the offense that they can just sort of run at any given moment. I'm going to go with the Patriots on this one, but I expect it to be a really, really fun game.
Yeah, I mean, and there are a lot of these games like that you just have to be excited about. And then after last week with all of the injuries piling up, there are games that you have to be less excited about because those injuries took out nice star players. And for our next game, San Francisco Giants coming over to New York. They play in the Giants. They played the Jets last week in MetLife, and they lost Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas for the season, which is a huge hit. They already have Richard Sherman out for the season, their top corner. Uh, and now, they're going up against the Giants, who also took a hit last week in Saquon. And with Saquon Barkley out, this offense is going to look a lot different. I think it's going to be very pass heavy. With Sherman out, they have the ability to do that. With Bosa and Solomon out, they'll have less pressure on Daniel. But it's going to be his opportunity to step up in year two. It's going to have to be Daniel's team. He's going to have to lead if they're going to win this, because Jimmy Garoppolo is not playing either on the other side. Nick Mullins is starting for them. And, I think that with the amount of injuries that they've consumed these first 2 weeks and in the offseason, this Super Bowl hangover is looking real for the Niners. I actually have to go with the Giants this week. They have messed me up my last two picks for them, but this week they're at home. After last week, the Niners game plan is going to have to be a little different with Mullins in there, and I'm going to go with the Giants this week. How are you feeling about the Niners?
Uh, this is a tough game, I think, to sort of figure out who's going to win. Like you said, there's a lot of injuries on the 49ers side. I like what Mullins has done when he stepped in as quarterback for the 49ers, but a lot of that had to do when he had Kittle around, and Kittle's not in this game. You're also missing Mostert this game and Coleman this game, so you're going to rely heavily on McKinnon, and who I think is a great back. And on the flip, the Giants offense hasn't looked stellar so far this year, but you're right, with all the injuries on the defensive side, the Giants have an opportunity here to really step up and for Daniel Jones to take a big step against a pretty good team, even with all these injuries, and a pretty solid team, even with all these injuries, to get a win. I'm going to lean 49ers because I think Kyle Shanahan can put together a really good offensive game plan that puts the Giants defense a little bit on their heels, and that's what's going to get it done. I don't think this will be a super high-scoring game. I think it's going to be pretty low-scoring, only going to be like 17-10, similar to what happened last week with the Giants against the Bears. Because of all these injuries, it's going to be one of those weird ones that's hard to pick out. So I'm going to go with the 49ers, give them the benefit of the doubt.
All right, yeah. I mean, you have to. It's just it's so interesting because I was so scared about this matchup when I saw the schedule come out, and I'm still a little scared the way the Giants play, but I think that they can pull it out this week. Last week, two teams that didn't get it done, the Eagles and the Bengals. They're playing in Philly this week. And, I just got to ask, when last week we saw Burrow throw, 37 for 61, both records for completions and amount of attempts for a rookie. Does this matchup bode well for him with a weaker secondary?
I think absolutely it does. I felt like he kind of had that experience a little bit with the Cleveland Browns last week with their depleted secondary going into that game. But what we saw from him is we saw 3 touchdowns. I think he's going to get his first win here. I'm going to say Bengals get the win now. The Eagles don't look great. Their offense seems to be struggling. Their defense does not look as good. They let Malcolm Jenkins go in free agency. It might not have been the smartest move. He's such a great safety. They don't look like they're really there the way that they once were with under Peterson and Wentz, and with Slays listed as probable, which is going to be a huge bonus for them. I still think that Burrow is going to be able to get this done, get his first NFL win as a Bengals. I do not love what we have seen from the Eagles so far this year. I'm sure as a Giants fan, you're like, yes, they're not as good. Yeah. But from a football perspective, I was very high on this team, and I was expecting them to do a lot more. I said they were going to win week 1. They weren't able to get it done. And then they got completely routed at home by the Rams. The Rams just completely tore them apart. So I'm going to go with the Bengals again. I think the Eagles are going to drop to 0-3.
Yeah, I mean, with the depleted injuries, they have no, Alshon Jeffrey this week, no Jalen Reagor, the first-round pick. Fletcher Cox is questionable. He is one of the most impactful defensive tackles outside Aaron Donald in the league. This is going to be a test for Joe Burrow in the sense that there's still talent on the Eagles' front seven that can bring pressure to him, but he has great amount of weapons. He has, A.J. Green will probably have Darius on him if he plays. You still have John Ross there for big play potential. And, Tyler Boyd's been playing great. I think that with Wentz, he, like you said, he threw 2 interceptions last week. I want to see him, be able to utilize his weapons, but they're all hurt. So I'm looking for a big game from Miles Sanders. I think even if they don't get the win, he will get targeted. If
Mhm.
Burrow starts racking up some scores, I really do think that the Eagles are going to have to use, Miles Sanders, try to get him 100 yards. So I'm going to go with the Bengals in this one.
Nice. Good pick. And our
Yeah.
last Sunday matchup at 1 p.m., we have the Houston Texans taking on the Steelers. It's going to be an interesting matchup. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think that the David Johnson, Deshaun Watson combo, they have had some tough games these first 2 weeks. They've had to play the Super Bowl champion Chiefs, the Ravens with reigning MVP Lamar Jackson, and then they have to play. Then these guys have to play the Steelers, and all three of those defenses are top 10 defenses. These teams really do bring a lot of pressure. And Deshaun is a great quarterback; he can make the plays, but it's gonna be a lot of pressure on him and David Johnson this week to get that offense going. They've been dealing with some nagging injuries. Brandon Cooks he looks like he's on pace to play. He was in full participant in practice, but I think that they're going to have to, just get this run game going and control the clock against the Steelers because the Steelers have been looking fantastic this year.
Controlling the clock is going to be hard for them. This defense for the Steelers is picking up right where they left off in 2019. They are just absolutely suffocating teams. And the thing about Deshaun Watson, you're expecting him to be able to maybe run away from these guys, maybe, pick up a lot of rushing yards. But Bud Dupree and TJ Watt, these are fast edge rushers. These are not, a JJ Watt guy where he's just going to be able to push through. But if you're able to just run outside, you can use your speed against him. Bud Dupree is quick. TJ Watt is fast. They're going to get after Watson. And if they don't have that run game set with David Johnson, the way that we saw in week 1 that he was running the ball well, it's going to be all the harder for them to try to beat the Steelers. And the problem is that the Steelers have done a great job bottling up running backs.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Steelers in this game. I trust that defense. Ben Roethlisberger looks looks very good in the pocket. He's comfortable with Juju Smith. He's found his second wide receiver, it seems like, in Deontay Johnson, who has 23 targets, 14 catches, 149 yards, and a touchdown. This offense is running the ball well with James Conner and Benny Snell in week 1. We saw Snell did not get a lot of the reps after the fumble, but I think the Steelers are going to get this done. I think they're a much better team, and we're seeing what happens when you trade an all-world wide receiver like Hopkins and you try to find a replacement for him. There is no replacement. Deshaun Watson is missing him. This offense does not look like the same that we saw in last year, and it's going to be really, really hard to get it done against the Steelers this week.
Yeah, and on the flip side, you have, I was thinking this week is really going to be the week where, Big Ben solidifies Deontay Johnson as his wide receiver too. I don't think that the Texans have the secondary power to stop the Steelers, in the passing game with Juju playing the way that he's been, and I'm excited for this matchup. I think that it will be a little higher scoring than we think, but, I believe the Steelers are going to come out with this one.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be very, very hard for the Texans to find a win here. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen as the season progresses with them in a pretty tough AFC South where you thought that they might have been the ones to repeat again, but now all of a sudden both the Jaguars and the Colts are in positions to kind of take complete control of that. So thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all the time that we have for the early afternoon games. But we thank you guys all for watching. Check out our website, justsayingfootball.com, our YouTube channel, Just Saying Football, and like and subscribe. Also our Instagram, Just Saying, no G, WJS, and tell all your fantasy leagues about us, tell all your friends, and have a great day.
Enjoy
the games.